Mythic Plus is actually easy right now. This seems to be a common theme on Reddit and the WoW forums, and to be fair, it is backed up by data because the success rate for a Mythic Plus key is 10% higher now than it was in the beginning of the War Within. Personally, I've hit my usual seasonal goals already. I got Keystone Master on 2 different healers, and I timed 2 plus 10 keys for the portal achievements and mid-track vault rewards. That's something I didn't think I would be able to do until way later in the season. And those 10s weren't perfect runs. I, Boo Boo the Fool, forgot to record my first timed plus 10 in Alcathar Academy on Holy Paladin, but we had at least 10 deaths by the end. Most of them because we had a Rift Breath go off under the stairs, but we still timed it. But that doesn't mean that difficulty doesn't exist anymore, it's just somewhere else. For me. God, I took an orb to the face, don't die, Sil, don't die. Difficulty is actually really important because if the game is too difficult in the beginning, people get anxious and don't want to play it. That's basically what happened at the start of the War Within. But if it's too easy, sure, it's also more accessible, but people get bored quicker. Mythic Plus now is more accessible to get into, but I also have to ask, does that mean this is easy for everyone? Or do the goalposts just move beyond the point of getting rewards? What about different roles? Healing a key below level 10 where nobody interrupts and sends in everything can be harder compared to a higher key where you and the rest of the group know exactly what to do and you're just healing the unavoidable damage. So my question is, what do people mean when they say 10s are so free bro, just hold W? Is that always true? Or does the context and player skill matter? If you're playing Mythic Plus, I can guarantee you make mistakes. And the higher you climb, the more punishing usually those mistakes are. But the problem at lower key levels is that what damaged you or maybe even killed you isn't obvious. You might not know the difference between a misinterrupt, you standing in a frontal, or just the unavoidable damage profile of the dungeon. How are you supposed to learn from your mistakes when the mistakes aren't super punishing or obvious? Like the Rift Breath that killed me almost instantly on a plus 10 doesn't come close to killing me on this plus 5. Things that are basically a non-issue for a long time, like ouchies, this damage tickled me, can become really dangerous as you climb higher, but this happens relatively late in the key progression compared to earlier expansions. At most key levels below a 10, like on this plus 5 Alcathar, you can just face tank this Rift Breath. Never know why you went to half health because that's just a healer mechanic, baby. And this might be anecdotal evidence, but I feel like the level where failure actually makes a difference has gone up with key levels. Would we have survived someone butt pulling an entire pack in this Ick and Crick fight on a higher key? I mean, it's not ideal at a 7 either, but you can still survive the occasional missed death bolt or an extra pack roaming into the boss area. You can finish this dungeon in time and never know what casts to look out for when you climb higher. Okay, so you're not necessarily learning all the mechanics at lower levels, but when does that actually become a problem? When do you run into a wall where if you make mistakes you don't time the key? I've seen tanks talk about doing 10s completely blind, like without reading the mechanics beforehand, and my mind can't fully comprehend that. What skill do you need to get to that point? Do you need to have complete awareness of what casts might be dangerous? I think a part of the reason why this season is easy is that failure isn't heavily punished. The timers are overall very lenient and Blizzard is actively adding time to the harder ones. You can afford to feel out the mechanics a little bit because even a full group wipe won't mean you don't complete the dungeon in time. We had several deaths throughout this plus 11 Nexus Point Zenith, including me, Boo Boo the Fool, standing where a death beam would appear and then being super big brain, super smart, clicking reincarnation without realizing I would re-emerge on top of the line and instantly die again. You did it! Gold star! And even with that and a full group wipe near the end because I was tunneling the health bars and I didn't notice a giant disorient wipe in front of me, we timed this dungeon. We didn't even wipe when someone interrupted the wrong boss clone here, and it does a lot of damage, but we didn't wipe. But being messy and still being successful becomes a little harder on a 12 or higher, where each death costs 15 seconds on the timer instead of 5. But I mean, we only missed our seat of the triumvirate by 1 minute 55 and we had 15 deaths in this plus 12. That's 3 minutes and 45 seconds lost. And we had a full wipe on the first boss because the boss vacuumed up the slimes. Ooh. And yeah, you'd think I learned from my mistakes, but no, because here I go clicking reincarnation again when I should have been obvious that it was a wipe. and that's another 15 seconds gone. And then you also have to wait for the boss to respawn. And with all that, it was still only 1 minute 55. I failed a handful of keys this season, on my paladin, on my shaman, and on my rogue, and I can pinpoint my own mistakes in every single run. As some of you mentioned last time, I wasn't using my Holy Shocks enough on Paladin and overly relying on hard casting Holy Light or even Flash of Light when I got into dangerous situations, and like an absolute noob, not using my Divine Shield enough. The absolute get out of jail free card. On Shaman, I definitely need to work on my gear, but also on my positioning, spatial awareness, and of course, using the right tool for the right time. On Rogue, well, you can always do more damage. My point is, yes, Mythic Plus is very accessible now. It's very forgiving. You can get pretty far before running into a difficulty spike wall. You can even get some good rewards very early on. But what's throwing me off is that when I got this far in Season 3 and 4 of Shadowlands, I felt like I actually knew my character really well. I could play Protection Paladin in my sleep. I had to grind for a while, get better over time. Getting all 15s for KSM in Season 1 of Shadowlands on my Resto Shaman was also an intense struggle. Now I've reached similar goals on both Holy Paladin and Shaman, and I don't know what I'm doing yet. So I've decided to not only move my seasonal goal higher, first Keystone Hero 2500 rating, and then maybe even Legend at 3000 rating, but in order to do that, I need to commit to actually getting better at World of Warcraft. Well, at Mythic Plus, I'm not going to raid. But what does it mean to get better at World of Warcraft? And does this mean I might have to lock in one character for progression, something that I'm definitely not good at? Well, let's find out together in next week's video. Hope to see you there, and for now, thanks for watching. Come on, ancestors, help me do some healing.
Maybe focus that healing on yourself.
I knew that was coming.
Help me do some healing.